On January 27, 2026, a major event happened in New Delhi, India. Leaders from India and the European Union met there. They announced a new trade deal, calling it the mother of all deals. This agreement is very large and important for both sides, marking a monumental achievement. This new deal creates a big free trade area. It connects about 2 billion people, which is more than a quarter of the world's economy. World leaders shook hands, showing their strong agreement. This moment showed great success. It means that goods and services can move more easily between India and the 27 countries of the European Union. This will help businesses grow and create many jobs. For India, a country with over 1.4 billion people, this is the biggest trade agreement it has ever made. For the European Union, it means new chances in one of the world's fastest-growing economies. This partnership aims to bring shared benefits and new opportunities. Getting to this agreement was not easy at all. Discussions started many years ago, in 2007. For almost 2 decades, leaders tried to make this deal work, but talks stopped in 2013. There were many problems, and for a long time, the deal seemed impossible to achieve. However, recently, the world changed a lot. There was much trouble and uncertainty in the global order. These big global shifts pushed India and the European Union to restart their talks. They both felt a new urgency. Why did this difficult deal finally happen now? What powerful forces and global needs made these two important partners decide to come together after so many years of waiting? 2. A long wait. The story of this important trade agreement began many years ago, in 2007. There was much hope when talks first started. Everyone believed India and the European Union could make a new trade deal easily. They wanted to connect 2 billion people through better trade. For 6 years, they worked very hard. They held 15 rounds of detailed discussions, moving between Brussels and New Delhi. Both sides talked about many important things: how to trade goods and services, how to protect money people invest, and how to keep special product names safe, like Darjeeling tea or French champagne. These talks were often difficult and long, trying to find common ground for such different economies. But after all that effort, in 2013, the discussions stopped completely. There were big problems that the two sides could not solve. They had major arguments about tariffs, which are taxes on imported goods. India and the EU disagreed strongly about agricultural products and access to markets for cars made in Europe. They also could not agree on how to protect new ideas and inventions. These fundamental disagreements were too big to overcome at the time, and so the deal collapsed. It seemed that the agreement was completely dead. For almost a decade after 2013, there was a long silence. This was a period of diplomatic frost, meaning very little official talk happened about the trade deal. India and the EU did not restart formal negotiations. Their relationship continued, but it followed old international trade rules, not a new special agreement. Even without the big deal, trade between India and the EU still grew. By 2024, they traded about 120 billion euros worth of goods each year. Trade in services added almost 60 billion euros more to this total, showing a strong connection despite the stalled talks. Everyone thought the agreement was truly finished forever. But then, the world began to face new and big problems. A series of global crises erupted, changing everything very quickly. Suddenly, India and the EU had urgent reasons to work together again. These major world events pushed their negotiators back to the table, giving them a completely new and pressing agenda for cooperation. A new world. The world changed a lot, and this made the old trade talks start again. This time, there was a new and strong reason for both India and the European Union to finally agree. One big reason was Russia's attack on Ukraine in 2022. This event made Europe think differently about safety and getting goods. Europe needed new, strong friends who believed in democracy.
They wanted safe ways to get important supplies, not just from nearby countries. Europe also felt worried about its friendship with the United States because of President Donald Trump's plans for new taxes on some European goods, showing a need for other big trade partners. At the same time, India faced big problems with its main trading partner. President Donald Trump, the U.S. president, put very high taxes, called reciprocal tariffs, on many goods from India in 2025. First, these taxes were 25%. Then they became 50%. This made it very hard for Indian businesses to sell their products in the United States, which was India's biggest market. Indian exports to the U.S. fell by a lot, almost 30% in just a few months. For example, India's handmade carpet industry, which sold most of its carpets to America, could not sell them there anymore. The taxes were too high, closing this market almost completely. India's exports of textiles, gems, jewelry, and shrimp also suffered greatly. India, which used to send most of its goods to the U.S., needed new markets fast. Its seafood, clothing, and jewelry industries were losing a lot of money. The EU also looked for strong partners outside of the U.S. because of worries about President Trump's trade policies and the need for new ways to get goods. They wanted to show that working together with clear rules still worked.
So, both India and the EU found themselves in a difficult spot. They needed each other to find new markets and to make their own economies safer. These strong pressures from global events made both sides change their minds. They had to agree to things they had said no to for 2 long decades. This new and urgent situation finally pushed the big trade deal forward, making compromise a necessity. So, after 20 years of waiting, what was really written in the pages of this historic agreement? 4. Trading things. This new agreement finally explained how India and the EU would trade goods. It solved the old problems that stopped talks years ago. Issues like high taxes on cars and difficulties for farm products, which had caused much disagreement, were now settled. Both sides agreed to reduce or remove many taxes, called tariffs, on products, making them cheaper and easier to sell. India agreed to lower tariffs on 96.6% of products coming from Europe. The European Union would do the same for 99.5% of goods from India. This was a very big change for 2 huge economies. The EU thought this would save Indian companies up to 4 billion euros every year. For India, this deal meant many good things. Indian textiles, like clothes and fabrics, used to have tariffs of 9 to 12% when entering the EU. Now, these taxes would be gone, helping Indian clothes compete better in Europe.
Products like leather goods, gems, jewelry, and marine products would also have much lower taxes. Marine products like fish faced tariffs up to 26%. Now they would gain improved access. One Indian minister said that textile exports could grow from $7 billion to $35 or $40 billion, potentially creating millions of new jobs. Europe also gained a lot, as India's historically protected market would now be more open. Before, India put very high tariffs on imported European cars, up to 110%. With the new agreement, this tax would slowly go down to just 10% for a large number of vehicles. Taxes on automotive parts would also be fully removed over 5 to 10 years. European drinks would also become more affordable in India. Wine tariffs would fall from 150% to between 20 and 30% for premium wines. Spirits, like whiskey, would see their tariffs drop to 40% from 150%. Beer tariffs would go from 110% to 50%. Even olive oil, which had tariffs up to 45%, would enter India completely duty-free. Machinery and chemical products from Europe, which had taxes up to 44%, would mostly enter India without tariffs. This historic agreement changed how these large economies traded things. It would reshape entire industries and create millions of jobs.
But the most groundbreaking parts of the agreement weren't about physical products at all. They were about the movement of ideas, money, and people. 5. Trading ideas and people. The new agreement was about much more than just physical goods. It opened doors for services, investments, and even people. India gave Europe access to many service industries, like finance and shipping. This was a big change for India. A major win for India was a new rule about skilled workers. Indian professionals, especially in information technology, can now work in the EU for a period of time. This includes people visiting for business, company transfers, and independent workers. The EU also agreed to help Indian students and offer visas after their studies. This was something India had wanted for a long time. The deal also included an investment protection agreement. This part of the agreement helps keep investments safe for businesses on both sides. It means European companies can feel more secure when investing money in India, helping to bring new capital. It also sets up clear ways to solve problems if they come up with investments. Another important part was the agreement on geographical indications. This protects special products from certain places. For India, famous items like Darjeeling tea and basmati rice are now protected. For Europe, well-known products such as champagne and Roquefort cheese will also be safe from fakes.
This means only products from those regions can use those names. This deal was already the most complete economic agreement either India or the EU had ever signed. It was set to change many industries. But then, away from the news cameras and official announcements, they signed a second, secret agreement. This other agreement went beyond just trade. It changed their connection from a simple partnership to a strong strategic alliance. 6. More than money. The leaders had just signed a big deal about trade, but they also signed a very important second agreement.
This was called the Security and Defense Partnership. It showed that their relationship was about more than just money. This new deal came as a direct answer to the global problems and fighting that the world faced. Both sides felt a strong need for secure and democratic friends in a changing world. The Security and Defense Partnership meant that India and the EU would work together on many important security matters. They planned to cooperate deeply on keeping the oceans safe, a process called maritime security. This was important for trade and peace. They would also work together to stop terrorism and to protect their computer systems from cyber attacks. Even security in space was part of this new plan. This was a very big step for India. It became only the third country in Asia to have such a close security agreement with the European Union. Before, only Japan and South Korea had such a strong partnership.
This showed a new level of trust and shared goals between India and the EU. It was a sign of a major change in global alliances. The agreement also brought new chances for India's defense industry. India could now work with Europe to build and make new defense platforms and systems. The EU was working to make its own defense stronger through something called the Rearm Europe initiative. India could become an important partner in this, offering a good place to make defense items. This was a big shift away from older ways of thinking about who India worked with for defense. It meant both sides saw their future safety linked together. It was not just about buying and selling. It was about standing together against new threats in the world. This parallel agreement truly showed that the partnership between India and the EU was now a full strategic alliance, not just a trade partnership. It sent a strong message to the world about their unity. But while leaders in New Delhi and Brussels celebrated this new era of cooperation, the ink was barely dry on the papers before problems started. For some powerful industries back home, this historic deal was not a reason to cheer at all. For them, it was like a declaration of war. 7. Good news and bad news. After the big trade deal was signed, many people in India and the European Union celebrated. They believed it would bring great economic growth, but not everyone was happy.
Some powerful industries and groups saw the deal as bad news for them. In India, car companies were worried. European cars would now enter India with much lower taxes. Companies like Maruti Suzuki, Tata Motors, and Mahindra saw their stock prices fall. Indian wine and spirit makers also felt threatened. Sula Vineyards, for example, saw its stock drop. They feared new competition from cheaper European drinks. On the European side, many farmers were concerned. They thought the deal could bring new competition from Indian agricultural products. Other groups also had doubts. Environmental activists pointed out a problem with the deal. The European Union has a new tax called the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM. This tax makes imports from countries with high carbon emissions more expensive. Indian industries like steel and cement will still have to pay this carbon tax starting from January 2026. This might reduce some of the deal's benefits for them. Labor rights groups also ask questions. They worried that the deal did not have strong rules to protect workers' rights. They said that talking about problems was not enough. There needed to be real ways to make sure rules were followed. Even small and medium-sized businesses, which the deal aimed to help, expressed worries. They thought it might be hard for them to understand all the new rules and take advantage of the market access.
They felt they needed more help to use the deal well.
So, while the deal promised much, it also brought fears and criticisms. Powerful companies and important groups felt at risk. The question now was if this big agreement could truly change global trade, or if these problems would stop it from being a success. 8. The future is here. The new trade deal between India and the European Union is a very important event. It took nearly 2 decades to agree. This agreement creates a huge free trade area. It covers 2 billion people, which is a big part of the world's population. It also represents a quarter of the world's economy. This means many goods and services can move more easily between India and the EU. Skilled people can also work temporarily in each other's regions. This agreement will bring big changes for businesses and workers. This deal is about more than just business and money. It is a clear message for rules-based trade. This is especially important in a time when some leaders have pushed for more protectionism. For example, previous challenges like the reciprocal tariffs that India faced showed how trade can become difficult. This deal acts against such trends. It proves that countries can make a difference when they choose cooperation over isolation. It supports fair and open trade. It shows that 2 big democracies, India and the European Union, believe in working together. They show that working together can bring good results, even when there are problems in the world. Along with the trade deal, India and the EU also signed a security and defense partnership. This makes their relationship very deep. It means they will work together on important things like safety at sea, fighting terrorism, and keeping computer systems safe. This makes their connection stronger, going beyond just buying and selling products. This partnership helps create stability in the world and addresses shared challenges. But this is only the start. The agreement must first be approved by all governments involved. This process could take more than 1 year. After that, changes to tariffs and other rules will happen slowly. Some changes will take 7 years to fully complete. So the full effects of the deal will not be seen immediately. Businesses will need to learn new rules and adapt. Governments must work hard to make sure everything works well for everyone. This agreement starts a new chapter for global trade. It is uncertain, but it has the power to change many things for people and economies. It connects the world's 2 largest democracies, making them a strong team. This connection will help stabilize the international system. It gives both India and the EU an important partner. This partnership can help them grow and stay safe in a complex world. It shows how much can be achieved when nations work for common goals.
For many workers and businesses, this deal brings both new chances and new challenges for the future. What do you think will be the biggest change from this new deal for people in India or the EU?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.